When it comes to relationships, we all have some pretty great expectations. I mean, think about the movies you've seen, the books you've read, the TV shows you love. Most of them probably have one thing in common, and that's some version of a love story. You know, two people meet in some totally unbelievable way, they fall in love, some obstacle tries to keep them apart, but in the end, they overcome it and all end up together forever.
Well, maybe in the movies or in the books or on TV, that's the way it plays out. But here in the real world where we live, it doesn't always work out that way. Maybe the great expectations you once had for your future relationships are now not so great because your parents fight all the time. Or maybe they even separated or got divorced. Or maybe you had a boyfriend or girlfriend that you were just sure you were gonna be with forever, or at least until next semester, and things just didn't work out.
Chances are, if you aren't dating yet, or you're not allowed to date yet, you've at least thought about what dating will be like. You probably have an idea of what the perfect relationship should be like and the kind of qualities that you'd like that perfect person to have. Maybe you think that person should be popular, outgoing, really funny, and of course, really good looking. Or maybe you think he needs to be nice or super athletic or have a ton of friends or obviously be super hot. Maybe you hope she'll be smart or play an instrument or be really involved at church or definitely be the best looking girl in school. Listen, you're all thinking it. Whether you realize it or not, we all place expectations on what we think the perfect boyfriend or girlfriend should be like. We all have our own ideas when it comes to what the ideal relationship looks like, don't we? But let me ask you a question. Why do you, as middle schoolers, really want to date? I think it's an important question to consider because of this truth. Why you date determines how and who you date.
Now, people date for a lot of different reasons. For example, some adults date because they ultimately want to get married. Now, as a middle schooler, that's probably not your number one reason for dating. You're probably interested in dating for a number of reasons, and I doubt one of them is marriage. I do think, though, that the reasons middle schoolers want to date usually boil down to the external, like things you can see, or internal, things you can't see.
Externally, you probably want to date because it gives you a little social status. It makes you feel cool or important. It gives you something to post on social media or talk about at the lunch table. Or it gives you someone to take to the school dance or to celebrate Valentine's Day with. It seems like an exciting new thing to do that even makes you feel a little more grown up or mature.
Internally, you may want to date because you like to be liked. You want to feel attractive and be accepted. We all do. We all like a little special attention every now and then. We like the feeling of being wanted by someone else. We like the way it feels when we're noticed or set apart from other people. We like the idea of being in love, even if we don't really know what being in love actually is.
Or maybe an internal reason to date is not about being liked and feeling special. Instead of meeting an emotional need, maybe you hope dating will meet an internal desire for a physical relationship. Maybe you hope that having a boyfriend or girlfriend means you'll finally have your first kiss or get to hold hands.
Whatever the reason, the reality is that a lot of you may already be dating or texting every day with someone or hanging out or whatever you call it. And if you're not yet, you're probably thinking about it. And if you aren't even thinking about dating yet, you will be one day. So it's important to think about all of these things right now because they're laying the foundation for your future relationships.
If you don't think about these things ahead of time, you may just find yourself in a situation where you never thought you'd be. You may find yourself making a decision that you'll later regret. Or you may set yourself up with a wrong expectation and treat people in the opposite way that Jesus instructed us to treat them. So if we want to have good, healthy relationships one day, we have to start setting ourselves up for them today.
The problem is that sometimes it's hard to know what a healthy relationship even looks like. With the way that media portrays love and the way we're constantly bombarded with sexual images, like how are we supposed to have a clear idea of what love should look like? How do we set ourselves up to have a relationship that reflects God's desire for our lives?
Well, what if I told you that I could give you the secret to successful relationships right now? What if I told you that there's just one thing you could start doing today as a middle schooler that could help set the stage for better dating relationships in the future? In fact, what if there was one question I think you could ask yourself right now that when you do start dating or thinking about dating would help you attract the kind of person you really want to be with? So what's the question? Well, before we tell you, let's take a look at a few verses in the Bible that I think are going to help us answer it.
Now, the Bible doesn't have a lot to say specifically about dating, but it does have a lot to say about love and relationships. In fact, the Apostle Paul wrote one of the most beautiful passages ever written on the subject of love. My guess is that most of you have probably heard this passage before, especially if you have ever been to a wedding. People love to read these verses at weddings. That's because in this passage of scripture, Paul gets really specific on what love really is, and as a result, it helps us answer the question all of us need to be asking ourselves when it comes to dating.
So here's what Paul said about love. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice in injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance.
Wow, talk about a love letter. If Paul's words don't illustrate what love should look like, then I don't know what will. I mean, what an incredible picture of what love truly is. It's the very opposite of what music, movies, advertising, and social media make love look like and sound like. Paul described qualities God says real love has. Things like patience and kindness, hope and faith, never being jealous or rude, never giving up, and always enduring. This is what God says love looks like, and this is the kind of love He wants us to have in all of our relationships. And that's why Paul wrote it down.
It's easy to think about all of these qualities we want our future boyfriend or girlfriend to have. Maybe the first things that come to your mind are looks, popularity, and brains. We can spend all the time we want making lists of characteristics we want in another person or thinking about what our perfect relationship should be like. But the truth is, Paul said that his list and God's list of qualities is what really matters when it comes to love.
So that question we told you about, the one that I think is gonna change your life when it comes to relationships? Well, instead of asking, how do I find the greatest boyfriend or girlfriend? I want you to start asking this. Am I becoming the greatest boyfriend or girlfriend?
Did that just blow your mind? Okay, maybe not, but I still think it's a pretty cool idea. Instead of focusing all your attention on finding a person who represents all those qualities that Paul listed, focus instead on actually becoming that person. Because becoming the person God made you to be is far more important than finding the person you've been searching for. And when you work on strengthening these qualities in yourself, not only are you becoming who God made you to be, you're also becoming more attractive to others for your future relationships.
When it comes to your future relationships, it's far more important for you to develop qualities like patience, kindness, and faith in yourself, rather than simply dreaming about the way those qualities look in someone else. We can't get so busy thinking and obsessing over someone else that we're missing the most important person in our lives, ourselves. That's why you need to focus on you before you focus on who.
Look, I don't know what your future holds. I don't know if you'll date in high school or college, or even if you'll choose to get married one day. But I do know this. You have the power right now to become the kind of person you want to be. You have the opportunity to start developing qualities of real love that can help you in any relationship, romantic or not. Whether you ever date or not, whether you one day get married or not, don't you want to be the kind of person that demonstrates God's love by the way you live your life?
I know I do. So why wait? Instead of putting all your energy and focus toward finding someone to love or date or hang out with, put it into actually becoming someone who is love. This week, try picking just one of those qualities on Paul's list and find a way to practice it in your life.
Maybe you want to be more patient, so you ask God to help you do that with your younger siblings.
Maybe you don't want to be rude, so you practice holding your tongue and not talking back to your parents.
Maybe you want to let go of grudges, so you forgive a friend who's hurt you.
Remember to focus on you before you focus on who. When we do that, we can become the kind of people that God wants us to be right now. So what we've covered over the past 4 weeks is a lot to digest, isn't it? And you may think that the things we've talked about don't really impact you right now. But trust me, they do now and they will in the future. Because when we pursue God's design for our relationships, control our obsessions, value ourselves and others, and focus on strengthening our own qualities, we're setting ourselves up for godly love in our lives today and in our future. As you leave, remember what we talked about today, to focus on you before you focus on who. And think about this question as you go. For the next few weeks, what's one quality in myself that I want to focus on improving?